I hope that you're well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 3 English lesson on reflexive pronoun. So it is our grade 3, let me just do that. English lesson on reflexive pronoun. And before we go on to our lesson, our grade 3 English lesson on reflexive pronouns, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 3, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of reflexive pronouns. So our chapter is reflexive pronouns. Our subject is English Language Arts, grade 3. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of reflexive pronouns is to choose between personal and reflexive pronouns and to use reflexive pronouns. So we're going to be finding out what a reflexive pronoun is, as well as what a personal pronoun is. And we're going to say the difference between it before we choose between either a personal or a reflexive pronoun. And a reflexive pronoun, right? It's pronouns that end either in self or selves. And when we are referring to one person, and then we say self, and if we're referring to more than one person, and then we are referring to selves. All right. And when it comes to reflexive pronouns, right, we say that it either ends in self or it ends in selves, right? And if the subject is singular, right, referring to one person, then we can, for example, say the subject is singular and then we have the reflexive pronoun. So if we're referring to I, right, then the reflexive pronoun is myself. So I, myself, like me, myself, and I. And then we have you, right? You, the subject, you, the reflexive pronoun is yourself. If you're referring to like to you, then you're referring to yourself. It is grade 3. I just forgot to add the 3, but it is grade 3. All right, so if the subject, if we're referring to she, if the subject is she, then the reflexive pronoun is herself. The subject he, we make mention of himself, and the subject it, referring to a thing, we can say itself. So that is basically reflexive pronouns. And then we also have themselves, ourselves, right? Which refers to more than one, but singular pronouns, right? And then we have reflexive pronouns. And then here we have a few examples. And we say the reflexive pronouns are pronouns that either end in self or it end in selves. But during the course of the day, we'll be able to distinguish between self and selves. All right, so now when it comes to reflexive pronouns, right? Reflexive pronouns are used to refer back to the subject of a sentence, right? So the subject is usually either it's usually the person or thing that they're talking about. So reflexive pronouns are used to refer back to the subject of a sentence. And they should match the subject. For example, we helped ourselves to some more soup. So we said reflexive pronouns are used to refer back to a subject and they should match the subject. And we helped ourselves to some soup. That is an example of a reflexive pronoun. So which means that when it comes to we helped ourselves to some more soup, right? If we identify the subject within that sentence, we can say it is we, right? So we is our subject. So if we use the subject we, then it means that we use the subject ourselves. And that is the reflexive pronoun. And now another example is Amy drives herself to work every morning. Amy drives herself to work every morning, meaning that our subject is Amy. That is the person that is doing the action. And if we identify our reflexive pronoun, right, which refers back to the subject, we can then say it is herself. So instead of saying Amy drives Amy to work every morning, we can just say Amy drives herself to work every morning. So basically, we said Amy is the subject of the sentence. And if we look at the word Amy, right, Amy can even be classified as she. So Amy can also be called she. So we also use herself as the reflexive pronoun. Because remember, we said a reflexive pronoun, it is used to refer back to the subject. And over here, subject is Amy, but Amy can also mean she. And we say that with our pronoun she, we use herself. And a reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer to the subject, right? Can only refer to the subject and refer to someone else or something else. A personal pronoun like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them should be used instead. So we see that a reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer to the subject. Because remember, we see that it goes back or it refers back to the subject. And once again, we say reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer to the subject, right? And we made an example of Amy, or we can even say she, right? Then herself refers back to Amy. And to refer to someone else or something else, we need to use personal pronouns. We need to use personal pronouns like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them. And this should be used instead, which is me, you, him, her, it, us, or them. And if we look at an example, right, it says Jake wrote a note to himself. And if we look at the sentence, which is Jake wrote a note for himself, then Jake is our subject. So Jake is our subject. And it says Jake wrote a note for himself. And remember, we said that it needs to refer back to the subject, which is himself, refers back to Jake. Because it says Jake wrote a note for himself. Right? So himself is a reflexive pronoun. And himself, it refers back to Jake, which is the subject. Or we can even say Jake, if we look at a personal pronoun, can be him. And the reflexive pronoun, we said him, it refers back to the subject. And then we have another one where we say Jake wrote a note for him. If we say him instead of himself, then it is a personal pronoun. So the personal pronoun him, it must refer to someone other than the subject Jake. Him or himself, yes. Himself, we refer to it being a reflexive pronoun, but him is just a personal pronoun. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. And once again, we said reflexive pronouns are pronouns that end either in self or in selves, right? Self referring to to one person, which is singular, and selves referring to more than one person. And a reflexive pronoun, it is used to refer back to a subject or a sentence. And they should match the subject. For example, we helped ourselves to some soup, which means that our subject was we, and then we use ourselves, which matches the personal pronoun with the reflexive pronoun. All right, so now we need to look at this word. It says select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. The sailor waved at, do we say her or do we say the herself from the ship's deck? The sailors waved. Do we say the sailors waved at her or the sailors waved at herself? So the sailors waved at her, or do we say the sailors waved at herself? So we can then say that the sailor waved at her from the ship's deck. So her. So her is basically our base pronoun, right? And now, did Emma drag? We need to choose one of these, and her is correct. Well done. So we need to choose the best pronoun. So did Emma drag you to the dance last week, or did Emma drag yourself to the dance last week? So did Emma drag you to the dance last week, or did Emma drag yourself to the dance last week? So we need to choose the best pronoun to complete the sentence. Did Emma drag? You need to choose between either you, or choose, or we need to either select yourself, either you or yourself. So we need to select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. And if we select the best pronoun, we're going to say, did Emma drag you to the dance last weekend? Because Emma is we're referring to someone else, right? Which is a pronoun, not a reflexive pronoun. So you is the correct pronoun. So well done. We need to use the best pronoun to complete the sentence. I usually prepare. Do we say me or myself for a workout by stretching? Remember, we said a reflexive pronoun refers back to the subject. So do we say I usually prepare me for a workout by stretching, or I usually prepare myself for a workout by stretching? Remember, we are referring back to the subject. All right, so if we select the base pronoun, we're going to choose the reflexive pronoun. So if we're referring back to, you know, I, which is the subject, then we're going to say, I usually prepare myself for a workout by stretching. So myself. So I prepare myself for a workout by stretching. Is myself, right? Because myself is a reflexive pronoun and it basically refers back to, which is our subject, which is I. And myself is correct. So I usually prepare myself for a workout by stretching. Because remember, I is, let's say, for example, you going to the gym, right? So you need to prepare yourself for a workout by stretching first. And that is a reflexive pronoun. So if something refers back to the subject, then we choose a reflexive pronoun. All right, so now we're going to the test. where we need to choose either between a personal pronoun or a reflexive pronoun. We need to select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. Maria chuckled to, is it herself quietly? Or Maria chuckled to her quietly? We need to choose the best pronoun to complete the sentence. Maria chuckled to, do we say herself quietly? Or she chuckled to her quietly? So we need to select the best pronoun. Maria chuckled to herself quietly or to her quietly. So we need to select the best pronoun. And if we select the best pronoun, we can say Maria chuckled to herself, right? Because she is laughing with herself. And herself is correct. So well done, everybody. I gazed at me in the bathroom mirror, or I gazed at myself in the bathroom mirror. Remember, we said that if it refers back to the subject, then we choose the reflexive pronoun. But if not, we just choose the personal pronoun. So I gazed at me in the bathroom mirror, or I gazed at myself in the bathroom mirror. So I gazed at me in the bathroom mirror, or I gazed at myself in the bathroom mirror. All right, so if you're referring back to I, then we can say I gaze at myself in the bathroom mirror because this is the person looking at themselves. And myself is correct. So well done, everybody. Myself is correct. The sailor waved at, do we say the sailor waved at itself from the ship's deck or the sailor waved at her from the ship's desk? So the sailor waved at, do we say the sailor waved at itself, meaning did the sailor waved at him, or the sailor waved at her from the ship's desk? So we either need to say it's itself or her. And if we choose the base pronoun, we can say that the sailor waved at her from the ship's deck, because the sailor cannot be waving at himself. And her is correct. So well done. Tom followed up with, do we say her by email? Or Tom followed up with herself by email? So Tom followed up with her by email, or Tom followed up by herself by email? Her or herself? All right, so we can then say Tom followed up with her by email. Her. And well done. Because remember, only when you refer back to your subject, then we use either herself, himself, yourself, and so on. Our yellow canary sings to itself all day or sings to myself all day? So our yellow canary sings, do we say to itself all day or sings to myself all day? The yellow canary sings to itself all day or myself all day? All right, so if we're referring to the yellow canary, right? We're referring to the yellow canary. Our yellow canary sings to itself all day because we're referring to the yellow canary, and itself is correct. So now we're going to be using the reflexive pronouns. So how will Ted carry all that lumber by? So remember, we are referring back to ourselves. So how will Ted carry all the laundry by? And Ted being a boy, we can say by himself. So himself. Well done. Himself is correct. And does he ever correct And does he ever correct? Mm. And does he ever correct? He is a boy. So we can then say, does he ever correct? Himself. And himself is correct. So does he ever correct himself? And your cousins always enjoy. Yeah. So your cousins always enjoy. Yeah. So your cousins, remember cousins refers to more than one. And we can say if we refer to it being more than one, then we can say your cousins always enjoy themselves. Because remember it is referring to more than one cousin. It says cousins. So themselves, because it refers to more than one cousin, right? And that is a reflexive pronoun. Let's go to our test. So now we're going to our test and we're going to select the reflexive pronoun. So complete the sentence with a pronoun that refers back to the subject in bold, which is a reflexive pronoun. Tom grinned at him in the mirror, or Tom grinned at himself in the mirror. So we need something that refers back to the subject in bold. So do we say he refers back? Tim grinned at him, or Tim grinned at himself? So we need to refer back to the subject, which is Tom. Do we say it's him or himself? So we can say Tom grinned at himself in the mirror. Him. Remember here, it only has himself, right? Tom is a girl. I'm a boy, sorry. Alice, which is a girl, prepared the sweet potatoes by. Is it by herself or by her? So Alice prepared these sweet potatoes by herself or by her. All right, so if we select the correct reflexive pronoun, remember I said Alice is a girl. So Alice, which is a girl, prepared these sweet potatoes by herself. All right. It says the passengers kept to themselves or the passengers kept to them on the long train ride. So the passengers kept to, do they say, themselves or kept to them on the long train ride? And if we select the correct one, we can say that the passengers, they kept to themselves, right? Because remember we said that if the pronoun refers back to the subject, which is, for example, in this case, the passengers, then it is a reflexive pronoun, right? Because you're referring back to yourself, you're referring back to the subject, for example, and that is where we add the selves. So themselves. So we can then say the next one is the chicken scratched itself against the barn, or the chicken scratched it against the barn. So the chicken scratched itself against the barn, or the chicken scratched it against the barn. So that chicken scratched, and the first one we can choose itself against the barn. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on reflexive pronoun. We see that the reflexive pronoun, it is basically a word that ends in either self or selves, and it refers back to the subject, right? So if Amy is a subject, then it refers back to Amy. If it's him, her, or so on, it refers back to the subject. And like we say, it either ends in self or it ends in selves. All right, so grade 3, this is the end of our lesson on reflexive pronoun. Thank you for joining our class, and I really hope you're going to have a good day further. Goodbye.